in the background. Okay, brothers and sisters, we are back again. We have a exciting, very exciting program that we want to share with you. Now, uh, we had Brother TutemRa on with us last week. A lot of people tuned in, and we got a lot of comments. And one of the brothers called me and was saying that, they thought this uh, kind of venturing out and looking at topics that we generally just don't look at, but yet we understand that we are one with nature. We're the air, we're the water, we're every element in the universe is in us. Our ancient ancestors believe that. And so if you ever been to the temple of Dendera, there is a there is a zodiac in the ceiling of that temple, and it reflects 26,000 years of African knowledge and their perspective of what will come. The zodiac is divided up the same. It's a calendar, and it's divided up into seasons. And all of the seasons are there. Pisces, horror, everybody's there. And this is the season of Kephas. We have had a program on that. Kephas is the Ethiopian king, and it stands for the rise of the black man. And the energy that's pouring into this universe right now on this plane is the energy that is going to lift black people up, and especially if they are tuned in to their ancestors' knowledge and wisdom that they left for us to understand that this is a time of our rise. And a lot of things is happening that we may not understand. And we may say that it's really crazy. Some people were saying to me that, that's a space cadet kind of program that you into. But I've had the space cadet experience myself, which opens me up to it. And it was real. I wasn't high. I mean, but I used to go down to the river when I was in college. This is back a few years, quite a few years, and paint. I'm an artist. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to open with my story so you'll understand why I can relate to brothers like TutemRa, and understand when he say that in his mind, he's a reincarnation of Tutankhamun. I was one day down at the river. I used to run 15 miles every morning, and I would paint. I'd go down there around 3 a.m. in the morning and watch, the stars would still be out. And I would watch them when the sun come up. I would paint. I had a way of paint like pressboard on my canvas. I nail it. That's what I would use to paint on was pressboard. And it's kind of like plywood. And one morning, it was about 3 a.m. I'm looking up into the sky, and I see all these beautiful stars. And one of them started to come down. I mean, it was coming down fast. And all around me began to light up. I mean, light up like the sun. And I started to run from this park that I used to go down to every morning back to my house, which was the projects that I lived maybe 5 blocks away. But I realized that I couldn't get away from this star and this light. It was just coming down too fast. So I looked up in it. And when I looked up in it, it slowed down. And when I lost my fear of it, it stopped. And it stayed over me. Everything around me was lit up like the sun. Now, this is 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm down in this park by the river, the East River. Nobody there but me. Lit up. I mean, it was like the sun around me. And it stayed there for maybe 30 seconds. And then it started to like jerk, jerk, moving away from me on an angle. It was like a saucer that turned kind of, on its like this. It turned like a saucer turn, and then it started to move, and then it jerked away real fast and went back up and disappeared. Now, I went straight home, told my wife about it. About 2 weeks later, because I'm at City College at this time, and I got an assignment in my Black Studies department to go to Vermont to interview these two sisters that were about 90 years old. And they had land up there, almost the size of a mountain. They could have a ski trail. So I went up to interview them, and my wife went with me, and 3 friends, Horn, another brother, and another sister who was a medical student. We all in the car going to Vermont, and I'm in the back seat. I'm not driving. One thing I left out of this, when that light came around me, something came in my head and told me, if we were to win this war, Black folk, brother, because I was very radical, and I was on the line with just about every movement that was going on in New York City from late 70s up until 2000. I was the official documentarian for the National Black United Front, all the demonstrations that originated in the House of the Lord Church with Reverend Herbert Daughtry, who ordained me as a minister. And it was out of the House of the Lord Church that most of the activity went on, the organizing of all these demonstrations and etc. So I was their official documentarian. Now, everything I tell you, now I don't have the light coming down, but I mean, I documented 20,000 hours of our history. Traveled to Egypt with Dr. Ben Van Sertima. I was with him when he did his research on They Came Before Columbus. I mean, whether it was Van Sertima, I traveled with Asa Higgiard to Egypt. Oh, everybody, I've been with them. I was the official documentarian. I followed them. Whether it was Dr. Oyibo going to Nigeria, I put together the delegation that went to Nigeria to represent him. And that was Reverend Bill Jones. Whether it was Alton Maddox, all of them, I documented this whole movement. I have it on tape. So what I'm saying, I can prove. But let me tell you, let me get back to the story. After the light came on me and the voice came in to my ears that if we was going to win the struggle, we would have to be gods. And I took it literally that we would have to be gods. I didn't quite understand it. But we're on our way now to Vermont to interview these two elderly sisters about how they accumulated the land and so forth. And Hohen and Ellie, who was with us, she was a student, she was a medical student, and they were discussing God and the Bible. And I got just tired of listening at it, And so I rose up in the back seat and I said, I'm God. Because that's what I had heard when I was down at the river, and that light came down and lit up around me. It said that if we wanted to win the struggle, we would have to be gods. And I said, I said, I'm God. And I said it defiantly, I'm God. And that car left the road. We was doing about 60, 70 miles an hour, turned around in the middle of the road and headed back into the direction of traffic. And I remember looking at this 18-wheeler bearing down on us because we was going down the hill. Now we're going up the hill with this truck facing us. And I could see the brother downshifting the gears, trying to slow that big truck down. I could see him clear as day. And our car stopped and backed off of the road by itself. And that soon as it did, that truck went by me, and the wind knocked us over into that iron chain that was alongside the road that stopped us from falling over, you know, kind of like in the cliff. And we waited there for about 2 minutes, not saying anything to any of us. And then Horn, who was driving the car, he turned the key and the car started again. And we came off at the next exit and went in there and had some coffee. Nobody said a word to anybody. We didn't talk. There was no need to talk. I wasn't God. And that became as clear to me as the word at the time when the light came down saying I was God. Now I knew I wasn't God, but I was God. And later on, I came to understand that we are all aspects of the divine. And when, like James Small said, we are gods having a human experience. So I hooked that up with the 26 years that on the calendar, on the walls, that says that it's our time now. This is our season. The black man is rising. The Ethiopian star is rising, and it stands for the seed of the black man. We're getting the energy to take our seats. We don't know everything, but there are things that are happening. Our ancestors are coming back through some of our children, and this is just a good time, but we have to understand that it is our rise and our ancestors are returning. And I know it sounds strange, and I know, you know, I haven't really begun to tell the story until now, but I got so many stories. I've been all over Africa and Europe, and I went more or less on the direction of my ancestors. I'd go all over Africa sometime without a dime in my pocket, but I learned to communicate with the birds. I just learned, you know, I just read nature, and nature talked to me and guided me. So when I heard Brother TutemRa, I have a hard time pronouncing his name because I really just met this brother maybe a month or so ago. And the same thing with Sister Mama Moshe. I heard her story, and I relate to all this because, you know, there are things that are happening that I just don't know. But I do know that our ancestors are coming. I've heard, I've heard the brothers talk about the spaceship watching over us. And I can't tell you whether all this is true or not, but I can tell you I've had that experience. That was real, brothers and sisters, on my body. If I'm lying, the Creator can just take me out of here. I'm 82 years old. Today is my birthday, and I ain't done nothing but fight on the front line, been arrested, beat, all of that. So I wouldn't be here lying to you. This is not something that I've talked about in the past. It wasn't time, but now is the time, and we need this help. I mean, these white people are not playing. They intend to do us in because it all ties in with our history. You know, you got up, you got down, you got opposites, you got evil, you got good, you got right, you got wrong. And evil has had It's day. It's season. There's a time to plant. There's a time to pluck up that which plant. There's a time to weep, and there's a time to be joy. All of these things are real. They're in the book, which is our book, really. I mean, these are fragments of our own history that Europeans have taken and regurgitated in their image and their narration. But the truth is there for us. Truth doesn't change, whether you get it out of the Bible, whether you get it out of the Holy Quran, but the truth is there, and my art is there. And when we live in peace and harmony and justice and righteousness, which is what we are here now to reestablish on the planet, that is our mission. At this point, I want to introduce TutemRa, and my co-host today is Sister Moshe. At this time, I will bring the brother on to talk about his experience. My brother.
Dua, greetings. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I like to say, I wish you happiness, health, excitement, love, and enlightenment. That's how I usually greet people for their return. And I'll start by saying that that when I started to tell my story, I faced a lot of disbelief. And for those people who might be listening, and the ones who also find a hard time seeing something like this to be real, or perhaps it is real, but I'm just not who I'm not who I think I am. You might believe that. I'll say that I was quite surprised when Minister Brown was listening to my story and even wanted to share it. I didn't realize until after we did our video last Friday that he had had tangible experiences of his own, which made him able to see and hear. He had ears to hear and eyes to see what I was talking about. So I want to start with that, saying happy solar return to you. Today, also, no coincidence, my whole journey, I have some books here on the floor because reading is important. We're a collective species, right? And we can't go anywhere. We're always on the back of those who've come before us. And today is also the day that Emmett Lewis Till walked into Bryant grocery store. And so to be clear, my first past life came to me in 2018. I'll talk about that later. My past life of Emmett Till. Today is the day that he went into the grocery store, and subsequently his life. And I say he, my life, my previous life was taken from me. And I want you to understand that sometimes when things happen, and I'm talking about the bad things that happen to us as a people, it's kind of hard to say that Trayvon Martin, that everything happens for a reason, right? It's kind of hard, especially when it's your daughter, your mother, your brother, your father, your son. It's hard to say that everything happens for a reason, but I'm going to tell you that there's some times when things are quite divine. Emmett Till was murdered in a unique fashion. Emmett was 14 years old. Asar, the Lord of Resurrection in ancient Kemet that they call Osiris, he was cut into 14 pieces, castrated. Emmett Till thrown in a river, castrated, shot in the heart, shot in the head, into a river very much like the Nile River. The title of this is The Murder of Emmett Till. But I want you all, and the last time we had this interview, Minister Clemson Brown, and like he talks about, is how do we affect the youth? How do we affect, especially the young brothers who are out here killing each other? I want to stress the importance of reading. And I want to tell you a little bit of my story, how I came to know. Because it wasn't just one day, he spoke about space cadets. It wasn't one day that I ate this thing called a mushroom and I had that. No, that's not how it happened. And I want to be very clear about this. And I also want to be very clear that after I do this interview today, that I'm going back to being a hermit. I have to finish this book that I'm writing. So it was very nice to do this and finally speak about this on a public platform with more of a fan base or following than I have of my own. So I want to start with this book right here. I have around 10 books, and I'll talk briefly on them. When I was a trainer, a personal trainer, I'm still a trainer, but when I was in around 2007 or 2008, I was very much in my lower mind. I would chase women. I was working in the gym, and I always wanted to chase the prettiest woman that I could find. And I liked that. You know, it was fun. I had one client, though. I won't name her name, but she was a defense attorney. And she had rheumatoid arthritis, and I loved working with her. She was an older woman. And she used to laugh at me because I would always be in love with a new woman every week. One day she gave me this book, Soledad Brother, The Prison Letters of George Jackson. And I put it on a bookshelf. I never read it until later in my journey. My grandfather died in 2009. Sometime after that, shortly, I started to pay attention. I started to pay attention. And one day I picked this book up and I started to read about George Jackson. And that spun me onto other books. And it spun me onto lectures and paying attention. But let me just qualify George Jackson. George Jackson was born in 1941, a year of the snake. Just like Emmett Till, 1941. I was born in 77, a year of the snake. But George Jackson was also, see now, if you understand what this was, George Jackson, the spirit is not gone. George Jackson was born on September 23rd, the day that Emmett Till's killers were set free, and the same day that Breonna Taylor's killers were set free. Breonna Taylor's killers were set free on September 23rd, 2020, and my physical father in this life had a stroke that day. Numerology, divine mathematics, none of it is a coincidence. He was murdered in 1971 on August 21st, the day of the Haitian Revolution, the day that Nat Turner did his insurrection. None of it is coincidence. So I want to start with that book. I also want to talk about this book briefly and this book. This is the Bible and the Quran. I want to tell you that I have picked this Quran up. My sister gave that to me as a gift. My sisters and mother, they're Muslims. My grandmother and aunts are Christians. One of my aunts is a Muslim. You know, so she wanted me to read her book. And I picked this book up one time when I was in time of need. And I picked it up to see if the book would speak to what I was dealing with. And sure enough, it did. So I'm going to say that there. This is the Bible. This is a Bible that I'm not sure which one this came from. My mother, I think it's my mother and my grandmother sent me this book when I was in Germany. And quite a few times in my struggle, I have picked this book up. And the book spoke to exactly what I was going through. But I want to qualify that by saying that this thing, he who knows one book knows nothing at all. The thing that we call God, this thing that we call God is not limited to a book. It's not limited to a book. You could be in the midst of your wrongdoings, and this thing called God will appear and give you a chance to second thought your actions. It will be on a sign, on a bus. It will be anywhere. You understand? So I also want to talk about this right here. I want to talk about food. I want to talk about how I stopped eating meat. I stopped eating meat around 10 years ago because I started to study. My grandfather died of colon cancer. Why am I talking about these things? And the title says the reincarnation of King Tut and Emmett Till. Because you have to earn yourself true. This is not maybe for some people it does. I can only speak from my experience. It was not just like that. It was something that was happening over time. It was happening in my music. I was writing about myself. It was happening through a course of time. And I want to talk about some spiritual thing that happened in 2014 on Thanksgiving. I had already stopped eating meat for many years, since around 2010-ish, and that I was still eating fish at the time. So I went down for Thanksgiving, and of course I'm the odd person in the family that doesn't eat meat. So one of my uncles, he was like, hey, I have a piece of salmon. Do you want it? I was like, all right. And he microwaved it. And immediately I didn't want to eat it, but I didn't want to be bougie and say, oh, I don't eat microwave stuff either. Like, so I ate his microwave salmon. I got sick shortly after. I was sick all Thursday for Thanksgiving. I didn't feel better until Friday morning, Friday a.m. The next day I flew back to New York and I went to Jalagovia, a store that used to be on 125th Street. Due to COVID, it's closed now. I went there and there was a woman in line. She was on the phone with a guy that she knew that was sick, and she was asking for advice. I gave her advice. The person behind the counter gave her advice. And I was very much a hermit at that time, not going out. But she invited me to a show that she was doing at the Black National Theater. So I was surprised, but the next day I actually went to the show. When I went to the show, there's always vendors there. I looked on the table. The first book I picked up was this book, Drugs Masquerading as Foods, Deliciously Killing American Africans and All Peoples. All right. So I picked that book up, right? I picked this book up. This is about Hatshepsut, who happens to be in the lineage of Tutankhamun, the Queen Pharaoh. I 3 books. I just happened to buy that book. And then I buy this book, Maintaining the Temple, right? Maintaining the Temple. And the thing about this book is this is the first book that I opened up. As soon as I opened the book, as soon as I randomly opened the book, it opened up to meat and fish and how they're bad for you. All the information on it, meat, fish, eggs, all of that. And then I turned another page and it was microwaves. I stopped eating fish from that moment, okay? Remember what I said. I said sometimes you're going through stuff and these books will speak to you. Well, other books will speak to you too, all right? So I want to start there. I also want to go here. I want to tell you one story about these books right here, the Metal Netta books. I also want to say this. I've not read either one of these books cover to cover. I've read more of the Bible than I have the Quran. I have not read this book. Oh, I haven't got to that yet. I've read neither of these books cover to cover. I've not read this book cover to cover. Okay? So, all right, listen, that's a good point there. All right? So one day, what is the oldest writing? We're talking about books. The oldest writing with structure and sentences are found in the tombs of the Nasut Bidis, the pharaohs. And these utterances, these writings are there to ensure that the Nasut Bidi, also called the pharaoh, would resurrect into another life, into the afterlife, and have a safe journey through the Duat. That's what these writings were about. They were more likened to poetry than they were an obituary. They were repeated lines. It was like a song, a hymn, like the hymn to the Aten, put in the Bible, Psalm 104. So one day I'm writing a rhyme. This is a short story. One day I'm writing a rhyme. And remember, I've been a hermit for very many years. This is around 2014 or 15. I think this, this is perfect. I'm in proper order. So one day I'm writing a rhyme, and it's a Friday night. Remember what I told you, on Friday nights, really every night of the week when you're out there partying, every night's a week to party, right? Every night's a day to party. But for many years, I'll be at home, not out, not dating, not out, not drinking, not any of that. And one night I was writing this rhyme, and the rhyme said, I be seeing signs in the times. I be seeing signs in the times. Could it be the unseen communicating? Does every dream mean something? Is a falling star really a falling star? Do you know who, what, where, when you are? Man, the unknown. You can go alone and go fast, or you can go together and go far, right? She saw my ancestor. She said she was my great-great-great-grandmother, my protector. I'll talk about that in a second. But I was writing this rhyme, and I remember looking out the window, and I remember thinking, part of my language, why am I sitting here writing this rhyme? Why am I writing this music? I'm never going to do anything with it. Why am I writing this rhyme? And a tear came to my eye. I was in an emotional state. And I probably was really high off weed too, smoking weed, writing. And I remember looking over on my bookshelf. One of my bookshelves has a stack of books all the way down. And when I looked over, when I looked over, right in my eye view, right at my eye view were these 3 books. And as soon as I looked at the book, I was sort of angry. So I said, I wonder if this book will speak to me. And so what did I do? I challenged the Necharu, the energy that we call God. I challenged it. I said, I wonder if this book, and I just grabbed one. And I grabbed The Great Oracle of Tahuti in the Egyptian System of Spiritual Cultivation, Ra'un Nefer Medu Nella, Volume 1. Have I read this book cover to cover? No. But that time I read a lot of it. I opened the book up, and as soon as I laid my eyes on a page, it said communication with the unseen realm. I closed the book. I closed the book because the rhyme that I've been writing that caused me to get emotional said, I be seeing signs in the times. Could it be the unseen communicating? And when I read that, it kind of jolted me. It was like kind of Ouija board. I was like, I didn't like it. So what did I do? I went to my Instagram to change the subject, And as soon as I opened my Instagram, there was a page called African Library. It's like the ancestors said, you can't run from this. As soon as my Instagram opened, it was a page of all 3 of the Medu Neter books. It was a page, they were in order like this, all 3. And so what was that? Was that a coincidence? I think not. So the girl that I met at the Jalakovia, she began to train with me shortly after that, like in December. And in January, she would be the first woman that I would ever meet that would tell me that she could see entities. And she would draw in my hallway, she would draw what she said was an entity. It was my great-great-grandmother, she said, my ancestor. And it was a woman. Actually, she wrote next to her ancestor. She said it was your ancestor with a man over the shoulder. And the man over the shoulder, in the comments, I'm not sure if I spoke about this last time. I think I wrote about it in the comments. She said that the man behind the woman was a white man, but he was very sad and mournful looking on his face, like sort of torment. And I never knew how to take that because this was pre-past life revelation. I didn't know how to take that. I was like, maybe he was a slave owner or something like this. In my knowing this now, I feel like that was Roy Bryant because we never get away with the things that we do. I think that was him being, and I know exactly who that guardian is, but I won't reveal that now because, you probably wouldn't believe that anyway. But I want to go from there to say this, and then we can open. I got a couple things, then we can bring Mama Moshe in for, to go back and forth. But I wanted to say that I started massage therapy school. This will be the last one, and then I'll be finished with these books. I started massage therapy school in 2013, end of 2013, kind of 2014, somewhere around there. And I met a woman in the school. She was pretty. I thought she was attractive, but she was more into telling me about past life regression. I was like, okay, past life regression, okay. And she told me that she felt like she was a witch in Salem. I was like, okay. Prior to that, I had never, ever, ever considered past life other than from hearing a person. I heard someone speak about the birthmarks on the body being connected to previous lives, how you may have been injured or murdered in a previous life. And you can see a dot right here on my head is exactly where Emmett Till was shot. And there's a dot right here on me. I don't know if you can see it. That right there, right where Emmett Till was shot, and it comes out my back. I have the other ones too. But with this book right here, I find it interesting. It's called Great American Trials, 200 Compelling Courtroom Cases. When I was in massage therapy school, there was this thrift store that was in between our classes and the clinic. And one day I went in the thrift store and saw all these books because I'm a collector of books. I like to buy books, grow my library. One day, I went into the bookstore. Well, I have to pause and tell you that the first time that I ever went into the bookstore, it wasn't with this book. It was with the book Celestine Prophecy. I had been telling somebody about how I had bought this book 2 or 3 times and someone stole it. Or I won't say they stole it. I just borrowed it. I just didn't get it returned. And the first time I ever walked into this bookstore, the first thing that I saw in my mind's eye, not my mind's eye, first thing I saw in my eye level was Celestine Prophecy, and I bought the book, and I had just been speaking about it that day. So that's what made the bookstore, the thrift store special to me. So I would always, just like I might open a book and play a game, I would start to play games with this bookstore. I would go in there and see what my eye would lay on for the first time. So the same day that this girl was telling me about past life regression, I go into that thrift store. And the first book that I lay my eyes on is this. And the first thing I open it to is Salem Witch Trials, with that book right there. I want to also go with that same bookstore. I want to end with this book. This book, I bought this book in 2016 from that thrift store. And I told you I used to play the game. I used to play the game with the bookstore, right? I used to play the game with the bookstore. Yo, you don't want to test this thing we call the unseen realms. It might answer you. The first thing I laid my eyes on was this book. This is how I saw it. And I saw 1955. My mother is born in 1955. She's born on February 3rd, the day before Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks, she is the one that didn't get out of her seat because all she could think of was Emmett Till on December 1st, 1955. And Rosa Parks passed away on October 25th, on October 24th, the day before my birthday, which is October 25th. So she was born the day after my mother's birthday. She died the day before my birthday, Rosa Parks. And she is the one that sparked the civil rights movement from the murder of Emmett Till, which gave birth to Martin Luther King. So this is the story. This is a book that I randomly bought that was about Emmett Till, because the first thing I did, the first book that I laid eyes on. This is the last book. This book is called The Encyclopedia of Fruits and Vegetables, Nuts and Seeds for Healthy Living. One day I trained a woman named Z, Dominican woman. I was training her. This is the first day, and I'll tell you about her. She's another woman that can see entities. She only started to train with me. I never knew this. I used to train clients in the park. And she was a seer. She could see entities. She told me this after she started training with me. She told me that she would always see an entity standing next to me, a woman, while I was training people. That's what made me interesting. And she didn't see entities very often anymore. She's seen them a lot when she was a kid. But she does. And this is a woman that is a Christian, Pentecostal, speaking tongues. She's very into the church. Very, very spiritual woman. And the first day that I trained her, I got this book in the mail before she got here, and I randomly opened it up to dates, page 101. And when I trained her that day, she told me she was anemic. And the first sentence under dates is how dates are good for people with anemia. So I want to close with that, saying that when you're on a journey, this thing called the unseen realm is going to guide you on your path. It's going to guide you on your path. I still want to speak on the murder of Emmett Till and how that past life was given to me and how I came to know that I was Tutankhamun. But I will close there and let Mama Moshe speak and come in and back and forth. And
yes, Mama Moshe. Good to see you this morning.
Messenger Moshe.
Thank you. Greetings. It's a divine pleasure to be here on the platform with, everybody knows I call him Daddy Brown, Baba Brown, out of respect. On his solar return day, a day of recognition, reevaluation. This is the first day left foot forward in order to be able to complete another year to come. So I thank him for allowing us to be present on such a time as this. And it's good to see. Here we go. I'm just gonna keep it simple. King Tut slash Emmett Till, the reincarnation. So I just, based on the things that you had already shared with us today, again, I can relate. It the spirit actually began the journey within my mind, because the source that creates the mind can actually communicate with the mind. And sometimes, because we're in a situation that is so chaotic, and so out of balance and out of order and not in harmony with the principles that oversee and govern us above, below, and within, the spirit has to allow us to recognize that no matter how we might self appoint ourselves to a status that we may think we know it all and that we can do all, there has to be a time when the spirit sees that you're off to a beaten path that is not beneficial for you to intervene. Because at the end of the day, no matter what, um, to the God of anybody's understanding, the purpose to having a God is for love, protection, provision, counsel, comfort, guidance, correctness, because we are as children, but at the same time, we're unfolding like the lotus power to become a mature vessel to deal with the issues that we were mandated here to unfold and to become and to be effective in such a time as this. So to be awakened, to be a pharaoh, or awakened to be a priest or a priestess or a healer or an artist or a dancer or a carpenter, or any of the skills that we can recognize from the ancient of days that our ancestors utilized to maintain a civilization, society, from the mud huts to the teepees to the village to the palace, that we must recognize that in a paradigm shift, it is now time to acknowledge our own journey, the little breadcrumbs that leads to recognizing the position that we hold within ourselves to contribute to the vision, to be able to restore and to redeem and to repair and to rid ourselves from these self-appointed um these self-appointed patriarchal male dominant sodomite society, because that's where we are. There's nothing, like I said before, there's nothing wrong with patriarchal guidance, but when the male energy decides to utilize it for dominance, and they're displaying themselves as something that is not natural, then our eyes are open as the originators to expose the falsified duplicators. So no matter what it is that the gift that we find in a time where there's an unbalance, we're at war. Okay, we're at war. So when you awaken, your gift has to contribute to be able to put things back in balance, things back in order, utilizing the truth and the justice and the principles of the divine, because we are that manifestation of the words of our ancestors and the desire of our ancestors. And it should be the same desires within us to see what is chaotic to become peace, what is injustice to become justice, what is sickness and disease that we prefer to have healing. So to awaken to any ancestral gift, they see what is happening to us. They see and they know the solution to every problem. So when you awaken, you have to be able to contribute to the reparations and the restorations and the redemption that's not going to come through the politics of our adversaries. We are the council that what we're looking for. We are the gift to humanity to shine our light. And we don't look to the same system to validate what we are being awakened to recognize who we are and that we're significant and relevant, and that at such a time as this, to restore the palace as well as the village, the teepee, and the hut, we have to do it without malice. And we don't look for everybody to be in alignment with that, because there is a certain amount that is known as a remnant that they know who they are and what they were mandated and sent here to do. And to contribute that, they will be able to recognize each other's voice, recognize the artists and the gifts, that recognize that the dancing is for to be do war dancing and not twerking. Now I can say that because I used to be a twerker. But anything that you've done for the world, when the divine spirit awakens you, she's gonna turn around and use it for the divine purpose of us being able to reestablish the order that she has gave us from the very beginning. So if you used to be a dancer, she's going to awaken and anoint you to dance for the motions and to be in line with the rhythm and vibration, to talk to the spirits of the earth, so that you can be in alignment and your movements will be able to call down the rain if necessary, to call forth the earth to quake when it's necessary, to call down the lightning when it's necessary, to be able to call forth the animals, the spirits of the earth to protect you. Because when we wind up in this wilderness, and believe me, those who don't take the job, it's very important that you be in alignment with the spirits of the earth, because they, where we are those who profess to be have dominion over the animals, our sisters and brothers, they have not read the Bible. They have not read the Quran. They have not read any books. But within inside their nature, they already know the past, and what we who now come into their environment must be able to be the student and not the teacher, not the dominant one, but the surrender, because they are the ones who is going to lead and guide us in the pathways of the wilderness. So I'm just grateful that those who have eyes to see, they'll be able to perceive. And those who have ears to hear, that they will be able to hear. And those who have a heart to combine what they see and perceive and what they hear, and be able to understand, that they combine it and apply it so they can magnify it and be fruitful in such a time as this. Because this is not a play game. The time that we're living in is the time that if you are foolish, it is now time to become wise. If you are immature, it's now time for you to become mature. And with that, for at this moment, my brothers and sisters, Mama Moshe is complete.
Okay, I wanted to respond and say dua to that. Minister Brown.
Oh, okay, so let's keep it going, my brother. So let's talk about Emmett, Tio.
First thing I want to say, I don't know if he's where's he at? Minister Brown, where you at?
I don't know, but
You want to change the camera? If not, they can still hear my voice. That's fine. Listen, I want to say this, but I wanted to say this so the person could see me. His name is Haru El Ra. I want to say to you, Mir E2. That means I love you, brother. In Metonetta. Mir E2. And the energy that he has in the chat, he's very hyper, very emotional, and very adamant about me not being. He's not saying that I'm not Emmett Till. I'm just not Tutankhamun. You know, and I want to tell you, it has been going on 4 years since I know I was Emmett Till consciously, and it's been it's going on 2 years, since I've consciously known that I was Tutankhamun, and it's been around 4 or 5 months since I've run into brothers. So I'm speaking to you in love, brother, because I'm speaking to you in love because, like I said, I never thought I was somebody else until these past lives came to me. I was quite comfortable being who I was. I scored all the touchdowns. I was Soldier of the Year. I was the most, most profitable trainer in the gym. I thought I was living a life that I was good, and those are the types of things that built my personality. I never had a problem finding a woman, so I felt confident about myself. I didn't need to romanticize about being a pharaoh. You know what I mean? So I speak to you in love, man. I realized that when people go down this path of Kemet, I've come into so many brothers, around 12, and even one female who thinks that they're Tutankhamun. This guy, Limitless CEO, his comment, all the judges in the chat seem to know everything. The soul has many fractions and can be many people in one lifetime. That's an interesting concept and thought, and I have thought about that too. So I want to say this to you. I want to continue my story about how I came to know that I was Emmett Till. And I hadn't really spoke about this. I really hadn't spoke about on my social networking platforms in great detail, verbally. I put it in my music. I put it in my comments. I've written it out, but I haven't spoke it like this. I was really saving it for my book. What do I want with my book? I want to lie. I want my book to be the most groundbreaking book written in modern time, because quite frankly it is. When you see all the things that came together, when you see all the ancestors who came together to help awaken me, this is not just some hocus pocus. My throne name was Neb Kepa Rura Heka Ma'at. Every Nasut Biddy has 5 names. And someone told me that they also have one name that only the mother knows. So my throne name, when you become a Nasut Biddy, a pharaoh, you have a throne name. Master of transformations of Ra, Neb Kepa Rura Heka Ma'at. What is Heka? Heka is the staff of rulership, the shepherd staff, the staff of rulership. Heka also means spell. Of course, we all know what Ma'at is, right? Justice, truth, balance, cosmic order, reciprocity, morality. So, Heka Ma'at. I wanna gift you with a rhyme. What's his name? Haru El Ra. This is for you. See, because most of the time with music and hip hop, which I spoke about hip hop last time, I spoke about how hip hop is misused, right? I spoke about that last, and I want to tell you what happens when you open your mouth to create music. Either the ego or the soul is speaking. The ego or the soul, and right down the middle are those people who are sold out. They sold out. They write whatever the company tell them to sell so they can make records. So you have the ego, the soul, and those who sold out, right? So I found out that I was Emmett Till in 2018. I found out that I was Tutankhamun in 2020. Yet in 2016, my book is very much a book of spells. Very much a book of spells. I wrote this spell in 2016. He fell asleep, he was drowsing, woke up 4,000. Years later, born in government housing, they warned of a savior. A covenant was found in a manger. In wonderment, he underwent an excellent ascent. Like when Malcolm went to Mecca, it was evident he could plant black seeds, grow trees like regiments on elephants, and trample the decadent empire with elegance. Fire, water, and all the elements. They X'd him out, they burned his house, but they ain't stopping the revolution that I'm talking about. Freedom is paramount. I'll shout from the hilltop. We pick crops, sing songs like hip hop. If Nat Turner was here, would we hang cops or bust shots like Tupac? Hot still. Who was David Walker? What was written in his appeal? Tell me why when he wrote it, they wanted him killed. Tell me why Tamir Rice looked like Emmett Till. Tell me why our blood still spill in the streets still. Still illmatic. We can heal or have havoc, make magic like a prodigy. There's gotta be the prophecy. See, now when you write Heka spells, rap, poetry, when you write something, you name it. And upon completing that, I named it Mecca, because like when Malcolm went to Mecca, it was evident, but immediately I changed it to prophecy. And in the beginning of it, what did I say? He fell asleep, he was drowsing, woke up 4,000. 4,000 years ago is around the time of Tutankhamun. And I remember when I wrote that rhyme, I wrote it and I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I didn't know what I was talking about, but I liked it, you know? And I said the name Emmett Till, which I've said the name Emmett Till many times in music. And I think in 2017, I said, I can't remember that rhyme, but I wrote his name so many times. So I'm speaking to all those brothers who have the energy of I'm not who I say I am. Listen, marry you too. I love you. You know what I'm saying? And if you think that that's who you are or that I'm not, then write a book about it. I'm going to write a book. I'm writing a book. Everything, the pain of Emmett Till might live in him, but he is not. But is he Emmett Till? No. He is participating in the passion. Okay. Economy online. Okay. All right. So let me go into my story of Emmett Till for whoever just left that comment, 5-star review. Let me go into for those people who have eyes to hear. So in 2018, I signed up for a Kemetic yoga course, Yoga Skills. All right. I signed up for this course. I think you can see that, right? And in this glyph, you see the Necha head, who is the Necha of infinity millions of years. He is in a pose that they titled or named the pose of immortality, right? So this is the Necha head. This was the logo of the course that I went to. And I spoke about it in the last video about why I went to the course with the dates and everything. And I spoke about how when I graduated, my past life was given to me. But I also spoke about how so this is Tutankhamun's royal chair, his throne chair. So on it are the names, speak on the spirit. That's all you can prove. So here's the throne chair. So I take a course randomly. I take a course that has the logo, the throne chair of Tutankhamun. And I did not know that when I took it. I did not know who that Necha was when I took that course. I had just been looking into Kemetic yoga, and so I took the course. And let me explain. The day that I graduated, we went to a vegan restaurant, we ate, and one of the girls in the course said, let's go to the African Arts Festival. I had never been to the African Arts Festival. I was 40 years old. 40 represents preparation and tribulation. 40 days, it rained for 40 days, it rained for 40 nights. Fasted for 40 days, fasted for 40 nights. All these biblical numbers, right? Numbers mean something, right? I was 40 years old. And thank you. I know he's not lying. I can feel it and I can see it. Dua. Married you too. And so we go to the festival. Like, remember the story that Minister Clemson Brown spoke about in the beginning? He saw this light and he heard this, so the voice and everything. I'm at the festival looking around. My first time there, I did not grow up in a family that took me into African things. You know, my mother was a struggling mother, single parent, didn't grow up with my father. So I didn't grow up culturally, with Africa on my mind. No, I grew up, I didn't grow up like that. So I'm at the African Arts Festival and I hear a voice in my head. And it says, walk away, you're gonna meet a beautiful woman. So I walk away and I'm walking, and then all of a sudden, those who have been to the festival at Barry Commodore Park in Brooklyn, New York, you know that there's the big stage, and if you make it right, you make an about face 180 degrees. If you go all the way to the other side, that's where all the food is. So I end up, I'm over there where someone's selling stuff, and then I see this woman, and I had forgotten about what the voice said. At this point, I'm just walking around, and then I lock eyes with this woman with dreads, with locks. Dreadlocks. And for some reason, electromagnetic energy, we start to talk. We start talking and we're trying to figure out where we know each other from. And, you know, till I just graduated as a comedic yoga instructor, blah, blah, blah. I said, I've been thinking about comedic yoga, you know, blah, blah. What do you, she bends, she's bending there. Oh, I'm a, you know, massage therapy coach. Oh, you should come and do massage here with me. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right. She offered me to come back with my massage chair. And then an old woman appears. An old woman randomly appears and wants to take a picture with me and my feather and her locks. So she takes a picture, gives me her information, she walks away. After I take Mars, the woman's name is Mars, Empress Mars. I meet Empress Mars. You can find her on Instagram, Empress Mars. You can confirm the story. See, the story is too connected. Let me show you how he is now who he says he is. Let me show you how the ancestors will direct and order your paths for you to find out who you are, given that you earn it. So I walk away from Mars. We agreed that I would come back. The woman took my picture. She walks away. Then I run into Hadia Barbell. I hadn't seen Hadia in about 8 years. I used to train her. She's a good friend of mine. And I found out earlier this year, or the end of last year, I didn't know this at the time because the revelations hadn't came. I hadn't seen Hadia in about 8 years. She does goddess retreats and stuff. But Hadia has a son born on August 28th, the day that Emmett was murdered. And she also has another son that has a tattoo of Nefertiti across his chest, which is Tutankhamun's stepmother. So, right? So I leave the festival. I come back the next day on a Tuesday. I was born on a Tuesday. That's Mpu, right? Ruled by Mars. I come back on a Tuesday on July 3rd, which used to be the day of inundation of the Nile, right? The star that July 3rd was the day that the Sirius star appeared after 70 some odd days of being gone, right? The Sirius star would appear again, marking the same span of time of mummification, 70 days. So I come back on that day and she's not vending in the festival. She's outside. So I'm like, damn, she's not in the festival. So I walk in the festival and I go inside and I see Mfundisi, Jehutimus. And I say, Mfundisi, I got my chair here. Can I please vend next to you? And he says, yes. So now I'm in the African Arts Festival vending under a comedic priest. And July 3rd, I only worked on 2 people that day. July 4th, I can't count the amount of people I worked on. But the first day, the first person that came to me, her name is Akua. She is another woman with dreadlocks. She is a healer, a massage therapist, a comedic yoga instructor. She came to my chair and said, just what I was looking for. And she came and sat in my chair. When she sat in my chair, the old woman appeared again. You know, she had called me on Monday, the day after Sunday, that I went to the festival. And she had sent me the pictures that she took of me on Sunday. And me and her talked a little bit. So I came back on Tuesday and I work on Okua, and a woman appears and I know her. She says, pictures? I said, yes. She took my picture and she walked away. I've never seen her again. I want to pause and say that if you go to my Instagram, you go all the way to the bottom, TutemRa Keparu, you go all the way to the bottom and you look at me with a woman with a pink shirt on, that's Mars. That picture, I'm wearing a picture with Emmett Till's t-shirt on, coincidentally. I started to buy picture shirts from this company in the beginning of 2018 with Khalid Muhammad's face, with Malcolm X's face, where Martin Luther, where Muhammad Ali, Harriet Tubman, so and Emmett Till. I bought these pictures with these faces on, right, to support this black, and I like the art on it. So I happened to be wearing that picture that day, that shirt that day. So I work on the core. The woman takes my picture and walks off, and then I work on in between that and the last person, because I only worked on 2 people. That's when I said in the last video that this elder looks at me, Baba Hank Rising's son. You can find him online. See, all of this is connected to other people. That's why disconnected to other people that can confirm and validate my story. They can't validate my experience that I had, but they can validate everything I'm saying on a series of events. My yoga instructor, his name is Isir Hotep. Isir is Asar, the Lord of Resurrection. I graduate from his course. I go through these experiences. The next day I'm at the festival. Brother Hank Rising's son says to me, brother, you need psilocybin. An hour later, I had my first psilocybin. I'm 40 years old. And for the first time, I would consume a magic mushroom when I got home. Upon eating the mushroom, this is the first time I'd ever taken a mushroom. All right, but I had been researching them. Once you start to research all these things, you come across, when you start to buy books that are about spirituality, there will be chapters on reincarnation. There will be chapters on oh my goodness. He said reincarnation is not African. I'm going to speak to that for 1 second. This is respected. So I don't know who it is. I don't know if that's a European in here trying to distract, because of like COINTELPRO. Let me speak about the mummification for a second. I'll come right back. Why do you think that we put ourselves into karas, what they call sarcophagus, and put ourselves in a tomb? Do you think that we did that because we thought that because we had surmounted all this knowledge and built these pyramids that they can't copy and duplicate today, that we did all of this stuff because we were foolish and we thought that we were going to take this to the unseen realm? I want you to fathom something that I see as the reality. The reality is that we knew that we could conquer death and come back here, which is why in the coffin text, the utterances are to make sure that the Nishit-Biddy, the Pharaoh, will have a safe resurrection. We put things in tombs so that we could come back and get it again. It was storage. Okay, so we understood the repetition of the soul. So this is not an African thing. This is a conscious thing. Once the entity starts to understand the cyclical nature of life, this is a reality. So back to what I was saying. I was saying that where was I at? So I ate the mushroom, and my body starts vibrating, and then I go to my email and I check my email. Oh, I skipped a part. I said that I started buying these T-shirts. And when I bought the T-shirt of Emmett Till in the beginning of 2018.
Brother, let me interrupt for 1 second.
Yes.
I was trying to put up some of these comments so that we can interact with the public. But I noticed that a lot of the names, even Haru El Ra, he's taken the name Haru El Ra.
I know.
Why are you calling yourself Haru? And yet you are somehow denying against the brother who calls himself TutemRa. And I'm seeing a lot of names that are directly taken from the African or the ancient Kemetic titles that we actually had. And I'm not denying Haru Ra because I like that name. I just haven't given myself one of these names, but I have been given one. So, I just wanted to kind of clarify some of this so that we kind of broaden the dialogue with people who are looking because we need to explore and understand deeply what time it is and what is happening. Our ancestors are returning in our children, in us. But we have to be conscious of that. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Go ahead, man.
That's okay. I'll also piggyback off that. And that's why I said Mir E2 to him that I love you. The reason that he's that, the reason that I feel that, because I have come across many brothers who feel that they're King Tut. And I feel for them. I feel I understand. Part of me doesn't understand because I've never thought I was anybody until this was revealed to me. But I can understand when you take in this information and I get it. But just like these books say, there were many false people will come. Haru El Ra, you got confirmations, but you ain't got this story, brother. Let me continue. So I bought this T-shirt of Emmett Till. What does Emmett Till mean? Emmett was murdered on today, 1955, August 25th. Emit means to give out. It also means truth, right? Like the feather of truth, emit. Till, like a cash register. Till when? Till infinity. Emit till. Emmett Till's father was born in 1922, like I said last time, the same year that Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered. Tutankhamun, his remains are in KV Site 55, which is the year my mother was born, which is the year that Emmett Till was murdered. I bought that T-shirt of Emmett Till in 2018, and upon wearing this T-shirt, mind you, I bought the other ones too, Malcolm and Khalid, and no one ever said to me while wearing this T-shirt, "Excuse me, is that you?" It would be the old ladies. Now this is important. Remember, the old lady took my picture. It would be the old ladies that would look at me, and around 4 to 5 times this happened before the festival, before my past life revelation. Because the festival was in July, so I bought the T-shirt in January, and these females would look at me, and I would be going to the supermarket, and they would say, "Is that you?" And I would say, "No, that's Emmett Till." And I remember the last time it annoyed me. I said, "No, it's Emmett Till," but in my mind, I'm thinking, how could you? Because mind you, that these were always older women. I'm like, how would you not know who Emmett Till is? Isn't that funny? I go to the festival wearing the Emmett Till T-shirt. I go home, I eat the mushroom, and then I check my email, and the pictures that the woman took of me that very day, who I've never seen again, she took pictures of me, and in the picture, you see how this right here on my shoulder is warped? You can't really see it for what it is. It's warped. The picture of Emmett Till's face was warped, and my face in the picture was warped. The picture distorted it. The T-shirt was bent, so it was distorted, but my face was distorted. And upon seeing that under the mushroom, my body shook. There was an explosion in my head. My knees buckled, and I almost fell to the floor. And immediately, instantaneously, I knew who I was, but also another voice said, "It's not true." I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it, but I believed it because I Googled him and I realized I started to piece everything together. I started to say, okay, when was he born? July 25th. Oh, I'm born October 25th. Oh, that's a coincidence. The yoga course was $2,500. The mushrooms were $250. 25 is a day that runs in my life. I was disqualified from Special Forces School on October 25th, my birthday, on my 25th birthday. I wasn't supposed to be there. The ancestors said, no, you're not going to go there. You understand? 25, I could go on and on and on about 25. The ring that identified Emmett Till's finger, it said May 25th on it. For those people who say, I'm going to speak this too. The people that say that, so Emmett, he would be born in the same line of Emmett Till. That was one of the comments. He should be born in the same line. Emmett Till's cousin that was there that night, his name was Wheeler Parker, like the Wheels of Destiny, Wheeler Parker Jr. He was 16, Emmett was 14. I was born in 1977. Wheeler Parker Jr. took his call to ministry in 1977, the year the snake, the year I was born. My grandmother's name is Parker. Her last name is Parker. So I come from the same family line as Emmett Till, who was murdered in the same type of fashion as the Nasarian resurrection. Okay, so I'm back in my room and I'm researching Emmett Till, and I realize, okay, it's July 25th. All right, that's a coincidence. I don't believe it. Then I see what year is he born? 1941. What year is that? Oh, that's the year of the snake. That's the year. That's the same year. Okay, we're both born in the year of the snake. I'm interested now. And then I'm reading his story. Oh, he died the year my mother was born. Now I'm very interested. And I watch a documentary on him on YouTube. And I hear his mother talk about his head was blown open from side to side. I got a dot here. All the places he was injured. That's how my life as Emmett Till came. You know, and I didn't say this last time. Then 2 weeks later, Baba Harut Hank Fry's son, who the next day when I came to the festival and told him about my revelation of Emmett Till, he's the one that said, brother, you need psilocybin. The thought came to him. Let me tell you why he said that. Because just like a bird has a spirit, a human has a spirit, a tree has a spirit, the mushroom, it has a spirit. In the same way it can push thoughts in you, this mushroom, if you ask me, that's what I think what happened with him. Why did he tell me that? Because I earned the right to know these things, and I needed something that I was searching for. And another, but it'll use a vessel, just like it'll use a book. It'll use whatever this entity, it'll use people, it'll use books, it'll use all these things to get you to follow a path. You know, but you got to be on the path. Whether you know you're on a path or not, you're on a path. That's the truth about life. You know what I mean? And hopefully in this lifetime, you'll realize and understand that. You know, so that's how the life of Emmett Till came to me. You know, so 2 years later, my life of Tutankhamun would come. And so you wanted to speak to questions in the chat. Everything has different feelings. I feel he is not him. So now what? That's again Haru El Ra. Peace, brother. You know, do you want to go into some of the questions? I actually want to talk about. It's not about me being this person. Okay, I'm going to prove that in this book, and I'm proving that here with these things here. I even look like myself. What for? Why? Let's get to that. Why do I know this? Because I have a story to tell you. How did I come to know this? I started to write heckas, spells, music. Like all of my music was fueled by the murder of Black life. It was fueled by the murder of Black life. When I went to massage therapy school, the first place I took classes was Riverside Church, which is the same place that Martin Luther King gave his speech a year to the day before he died on April 4th, 1967. He gave a speech and he talked about, and a year later they murdered him. That's the same day I had my past life revelation of Tutankhamun. So why is this important? This is important not just because it's not all about me. I spoke about it in the beginning. I spoke about a man. Who am I? I'm in a flesh physical body. But what did I do? I made changes. I made decisions. I started to change the way I thought and my actions. I started to change the way that I ate. I started to change the way that I lived my life, what I started to do with my time, how I started to manage my time, what I started to revere, what I started to listening to. Bobby Hemmett was my favorite lecturer. I listened to many hours of him. If you take H off of Emmett, it's Emmett. Emmett Till's nickname was Bobby. Everything about what I'm saying you is going to ring to be true. Okay? But why? So this is my plea to our people. You know, my plea is for unity on all fronts. Even though there's a reality of things that it won't be everyone, but it'll be enough of us. It'll be enough of us to try to honor and go back, Sankofa. Remember where you come from. Remember where you come from. What is behind me? This is the oldest writing that you're going to see. You know what I'm saying? Honor your ancestors. It says, honor thy mother and thy father. Let me tell you something. These people who make movies, they honor their mothers and their fathers. You understand? If you go watch Lovecraft Country, it came on Netflix or one of these shows. These people know already. They know this stuff already. You know what I'm saying? So in Lovecraft Country, it's like a 9-episode series. In episode 7 is the murder of Emmett Till. An episode is all about a white family and a black family looking for a book of spells. The oldest book of spells come from the 18th dynasty. These are the utterances to make sure that the understood had a safe journey to the next life. That's immortality. In the show, they were searching for the immortality. The white family was playing with magic. They were searching for immortality. They had to go to this black family to get it. They had to go back in time. So they went back in time to Black Wall Street. In the midst of Black Wall Street, you see how they're using your history against you? They're using it and they're making you watch it. I wrote a rhyme. It said, acting versus action. We don't take action. We get roles that act in movies because we relaxing. I miss Michael Jackson. We watching movies all the time and we acting instead of taking actions. And you're going to keep playing into the show that they're going to show you over and over and over. This new show, this new song. And in this show, it's about immortality, about a book of spells. They had to go back to Black Wall Street, in the midst of Black Wall Street, and go into the house of their ancestors and convince these people from 1921 that they come from the year 2020 and to give them this book of spells so that they could come back here and create this magic. And so if I'm talking anything, I'm trying to talk to some magic to awaken you up to remember who you are. It is no question of who I am. The problem is that the people who retract it, you want so much to be a pharaoh. You want so much to be a king, to be this, to be that. You know, I didn't want to know this. I didn't come out and say that I'm that. This is something that was revealed to me. You understand? And it's not the most easiest thing to deal with, especially when most of it, like I said in the beginning, I was surprised when he believed me or he knew it to be true. Because most of the people, even the people that I've named, some of them don't even believe what I'm telling you. But I don't have time for that. I'm telling this story because people need to know it. We need to understand that if we do not unify, come together. What is it called? What is it called? What word am I looking for? When we come together and share our assets, there's a word for this. It slipped my mind. But listen, reincarnation is real. Reincarnation is real, and just like you don't remember the dream from last night, there's a chance that you can come back here again. Many of you listening, don't worry about what the other people are saying. Many of you feel like you have been here before. What I suggest you do is don't look or decide that you are any of these people. Walk a path of ma'at. Walk a path that's true. And like I said in the last video, what is supposed to be revealed for you, what you agreed to learn and know when you came here, you'll align up with that. Too many people up here talking about, I'm the reincarnation, I'm the return of Jesus Christ, I'm the return of this, and I'm the return of Tutankhamun and everything else. I know this is only my second interview ever doing this. And I held out for a long time because I understood. People have asked me to do interviews. Actually, the only place I wanted to do an interview, and I sent Lord Jamal a text message several times. I wanted my first interview to be done on a Godcast because my book has so much hip hop in it. It's my hip hop spells. It's my spells that help to wake me up. I'll be the black seed Osiris, see sunset, looking for a set Isis, black duality crisis, born in this white man's world of civilization. When I think about a king, I'll be thinking about Akhenaten. I wrote that in 2012 or 13. You understand? My soul was speaking already. Who's Akhenaten? Tutankhamun, King Tut's father. When I'm thinking about a king, I'll be thinking about Akhenaten. I'll be the black seed Osiris. Who is Osiris? The Lord of Resurrection. I'll be the black seed Osiris. See, sun, Set. Who is Set? Set's the one that put a saw in the basket, in the coffin, cut him into 14 pieces. Emmett Till murdered at 14. My soul was speaking. You understand? You know, so what is this for? This is for unity against all people. Instead of killing each other, instead of wasting your time watching the stuff that they're going to program for you, pick up the books that are left for you from your ancestors. Here's another book that I think you should read. I brought it here. You should read Octavia Butler, Seed to Harvest. You really should read that. You should read all Octavia's books. You should read books that stimulate your mind. You should listen to music that stimulates your mind. You should get rid of every music, any type of music that is derogatory, right? You should only listen to music that edifies you and builds you up, that teaches you something, all right? Because like I said before, that is also the food that you intake, what you listen to. I want to take a break and let someone else, Messenger Miche, speak to. I kind of got riled up right there.
Yes,
okay. You're supposed to be compassionate when you stand on your truth, you know, so it's normal. I mean, it's a part of what most people recognize in me. But it's like when you say you were born in the year of the snake, I remember the ancestors bringing to me to be known that from an African Asian perspective, that I was born in the year of the tiger. And when it comes to, I noticed when the spirit didn't tell me of one individual of who I am, because in the council, in the cosmos, there were many. So just to be not biased to any of them, I just recognize the office that I walk in, and that is a messenger. So like when you when you said that you have proof of what it is that you represent versus just being able to be a mouthpiece, I'm so grateful about the proof that the evidence of what the spirit has been using me as. Now, in the beginning, when you're a child and you're just wanting to please your eternal parents, recognizing the masculine and the energy, feminine energy, because I wasn't raised by my mother, who actually gave me and my twin brother up when we were 6 weeks old. I didn't have a female influence in the household as I was growing up. So a lot of my inner masculine and feminine energy was more unbalanced because I was around a lot of masculine energy. And I was actually born with a voice that is much deeper than what you all hear now. But my daddy gave me a complex one day when he pulled me to the side and told me, if you don't get the bass out of your voice, I'm going to take it out for you. And plus, no man is going to want you talking deeper than them. So I was struggling because I realized I couldn't have it. I couldn't keep friends in school. And whenever I opened my mouth to speak, people automatically thought I was being rude, aggressive, that I had an anger issue, which I did. I had a hidden one, but nevertheless, I mean, I wasn't trying to express it through my voice, but nevertheless, what the spirit was showing me, everything that I had hidden was actually an attribute for such a time as this. Now, most people in the community knows me as Mama Lioness Adasa. Now, when the divine spirit would send me to quote unquote places of worship, whether it be Christian, whether it be Hebrew Israelites, whether it be Muslim, or whether I've even been sent to a synagogue before. Now, when the Spirit tells me that the sending me in this place, I didn't realize the Spirit was sending me to be active in the office of what she's actually called me to do. So I notice when I'm sent to these places, the Spirit always say, I want you to hear a word, but I'm not going to let you leave without leaving a word. Now, whew, now that experience, I would actually get my teachings at home from the Spirit. And so whenever I go someplace, I'm always having like confirmations. And when I go into these places, I will hear like a confirmation, but yet I will hear it mixed with deception. And the Spirit would always stand me up where these a lot of people say you're out of order because this is not decent, or how they say it, everything has to be done right and decent and in order. But because we are the light to the nations, we are walking in order. And when we open our mouth, we put things back in order. When we hear a lie, we have to bring truth to actually devour their lies. Now, I'm grateful that the Divine Spirit has left evidence of the visitations that I have. So there's major churches, very well-known church. I'll mention one. Most people, if you're in the Georgia area, there was a pastor named Eddie L. Long. Now, the Divine brought me here to Georgia. I didn't know the Spirit was sending me to him to be a messenger to him. So I went there for the Divine to use me as a mouthpiece to speak to him. Now, before it became public of everything that he has been accused for and everything being revealed, the Spirit had me to say these things. I'm not concerned about what the Spirit has me to write or what the Spirit has for me to say. I'm the mouthpiece. I'm the messenger. A lot of people hate the messenger, but they're not listening to the message. And a lot of people hear the message, but they don't receive the messenger because it's not coming from what they have pre-thought that messenger is supposed to be like or look like. When he actually received the messages, he would always decline it and use his what they call the ones who are supposed to be protecting him. Now, see, it doesn't make sense for you to be a preacher and you're talking about you believe in God and that you're always protected, but yet you still need an entourage to protect you. But nevertheless, he would always send them to keep me from them. But one day, the divine spirit had me to dress in my service robe and sent me there. And the spirit told me, when you hear my words, I want you to stand up and you speak what I tell you to speak. That particular day, there was thousands of people in that place, and I heard the word where the spirit had already revealed to me what the word was going to be, but it was coming out of his mouth. And he was saying, watch this, watch this. So he knew I was there. He knew that the spirit was sending me to him. And he said, watch this, watch this. And he said the word. And then naturally I stand up, and then the spirit takes a hold of my mouth and I speak. And immediately he was saying that you are not going to do this in my church. Then he said, shut up. Now, according to the understanding that I had at that time, you're not telling me to shut up. You're actually telling the divine spirit to shut up. And when you do that, then you're going to be held accountable for what come out of my mouth next. And so I kept speaking. And then all of a sudden, these two big muscular guys come out. One take me by this arm, the other one take me by this arm. Anybody who is sitting here from maybe 10 years back, I'm the one that was dressed in all white that they came up and literally picked up, carried out of the church, put in a police car, and was accusing me of all kind of things. But my mouth, the spirit was still going. So I have a whole congregation of the evidence of when the spirit comes over you and the spirit tells you to do something. It's not about trying to contemplate or try to figure out, well, no, if I want to do this, that, and the other. Once you've agreed to be that mouthpiece, or to be that hands, or to be the eyes, or to be the ears that the divine can actually use, then it's of course you're supposed to be able to look back within yourself of the compassion and the love that you want to be able to please your internal parent and do what they tell you to do. So nevertheless, when they banned me, or what they call 86 me, from coming there, then the spirit has sent me to other places. Some received me, but there was a lot of jealousy among the women, especially when you go through a Hebrew Israelite congregation, because they don't teach their women to speak up and speak out. But see, my teacher comes from the omnipresence, the omnipotence, the omnipotence, the omniferous, the omnicompetent one. I need not to be in a building to hear or to be guided by the spirit. So the spirit teaches me at home and then sends me out to walk as I learn and learn as I walk. And a lot of people think that they have to go to seminary school, or they have to go read book from front to back, just like that I can relate to King Tut / Emmett, because I never read a book from the beginning to the end. I too was able to I can ask a question, and then the spirit will literally close my eyes and would take my hand, open up the book, and put my finger on the page, and wherever my finger is to the question that I asked was always the profound answer to what it was that I was asking. And that's stories for another day. But nevertheless, I'm saying this that I can relate to the brother, but at the same time, I can recognize that when you come into the awakening of an office, like this is Emmett Till's day. Emmett Till was maliciously disfigured by racism. Now, for me to wake up into a realm in the same environment of where there's still resistance and racism and all of that that still exists, and know that the two people, the two brothers that was acquitted and released, my first action of office is that I must be sent here to be a judge. I must be sent here to assist with truth, balance, order, law, and justice to be in harmony with the divine laws as it is above, so it shall be below. Now, with the mentalism, the polarity, the causation, the correspondence, the morality, and the gender. These things, they work together. You have the spiritual realm of the governing of the divine spirit as the parent, and then they given us the truth and balance in order to be in harmony with what the governing laws is from above. And so I give thanks that the divine spirit has brought TutemRa, TutemRa, to I'll just simply just keep it simple. King Tut / Emmett, to even bring this story to my ears. So see, when something come into my ears, I know there's a divine order for the reason for me hearing this. Because I had to take my office and apply it and see it from a different perspective. And then it enhances and recognize the exploitation and the demise and the mistreatment that's happening today. If when the ancestors are coming back within us, it's all about seeking justice, and we don't have to look to the validation of the system that has found pleasure and has found finance and has found a platform of darkness in order for to keep our people blind, ignorant, and dumb, and with so in tune with the people telling them what to hear instead of them able to utilize their mind to how to distinguish and use discernment and to stop people from telling you what to think, and you utilize your born mind on how to think that's beneficial for us, because the power to define is what it gives us the power to control. So we have to take back that ability, since we were the first teachers, to define those things that are going to be beneficial for us. We don't have to them to validate our language, but see, we can't just speak it, we have to live it. So this is the reason. Somebody said in the chat room, when I said twerk, that I used to be a twerker. You obviously haven't heard my story, but I'm going to sum it up that I used to drink, I used to smoke, I used to snort, I used to shoot, I used to lie, I used to steal, I used to carry guns, I used to carry knives, I used to be a stripper, I used to be a lesbian. I was abusive to old and young, 2-footed and 4-footed, group homes, treatment centers, jail, anything and everything that you can imagine from A to Z. That's who I was. But in the sight of the divine, I was all that for a divine purpose, so I can communicate with those who are still living in that type of environment, who needs to realize that they are a precious stone. And when you find a precious stone in this natural environment, you're going to find it with filth, dirt, soil, everything that's going to be covering it, that you don't really necessarily see its true value. Okay, so when the divine spirit comes for those who are going to be effective in such a time as this, count it our joy that you have an experience and you can relate to somebody else and be able to show them simply that no matter how low you go, that as far as a woman is concerned, there's a highness in you, like a queen in you, and a queen or a king or a leader or a netaru or a netaret is a service to the people. We serve you. So if I had to live all of that filthy way in order for me to live as a fool first, so I can become wise today, I count it all joy if you can hear what I'm saying, if you can see what I'm doing, because I'm a reflection of you, and that you can be even greater than the things that I have done or have not done. But we can do a whole lot together when we come together and recognize that we are value, that we are significant and relevant in such a time as this. And it don't take no PhD, no scholarships, or no degrees. Even if you only have a GAD, when the divine spirit revealed to me that the glory of divinity's education is all that I need, as long as we have our eyes to see and be able to see the path that the divine wants us to go, as long as we have ears to hear the instructions from the divine spirits of the ancestors and the divine, as long as we have a mouth to speak and sometimes keep it closed or just make it crack up a little bit to give somebody a smile and just let them know that we recognize them. The root of them Butu. I love them Butu because I don't exist if you don't exist. And we cannot exist together if we don't respect one another. And when we respect one another, then we can accomplish a lot with one another. So I just wanted to let you all know, it's like I have so much that I can share with you all. But this is my brother's platform. This is brother TutemRa, Emmett, platform opportunity to share his story. But see, when the ancestors come over me, I can't help but to speak when they tell me to speak. I can't help but to say what they tell me to say. And we all have a gift within us to contribute to any conversation, and that we have to recognize that it's not about competition. It's about you being all that you can be and who you were assigned to be in such a time as this. And with that, I'm complete.
All right, listen. I want to extend off the copy. I want to connect off one of the last things you say, and you know, abilities and gifts and stuff. I was looking through some of the comments while I was listening to you, and I picked out a few. The first thing I want to say is a brother named Prior Dua. He said he's enjoying listening. Dua, thank you. Peace. There was a sister named Tanisha who asked if the ancestors. She mentioned that I mentioned that I do yoga, Kemetic yoga instructor. Will the ancestors come and use us as a vessel or a portal? I'm going to tell you about I'm going to detail many experiences I've had with ancestors who are not here anymore. With ancestors who are my guardians, who remember what I was talking about with someone that's in my hallway. One of my ancestors in the hallway. I will just say this to you, that Marcus Garvey said many times in his speeches, I can't quote it verbatim, but he basically said, I'll be back in the whirlwind with thousands of slaves that were murdered. Marcus Garvey used to say that. And I'm going to tell you that because you don't have a physical body doesn't mean that you are not around. Why do you think they say speak a man's name and he'll live forever? You understand? Emmett's name's always being said. Tutankhamun's name's always being said. I'm so thankful for that. But even before that, I want to also piggyback off of what another person said. I didn't write this person's name down, but he said that, I think this was Haru El Ra. I want to speak to two things. He's one of the detractors in the comments. I want to speak to him. He says that the pharaoh should be a Leo. He should be a lion heart. And I'm going to tell you, like I said the last time in the first video, that there's an ancient prediction that Haru would have a reincarnation, a resurrection, a return in the age of Aquarius. He would unite the lion with the lamb. And it's interesting that I'm having this issue with someone named Haru El Ra. When Haru is the Sphinx, Haru Em-Aket, all right? Haru on the horizon, in the horizon. That is the true name of the Sphinx, the lion that you see with the human head. And so I want to tell you about me. I had a first time I had an astrological reading about a month ago. And a portion of it is on my Instagram. And where the astrologer tells me that she wouldn't be having a conversation if I wasn't connected. There's something called a dragon's head and a dragon's tail. My dragon tail, just so coincidentally, lays right into the 18th dynasty, the starting of my soul. All right. And then my Saturn is in 28 degrees Leo. Emmett was a Leo. Understand? And he was murdered on the 28th. And so I want to tell you that there's this prophecy or this prediction that Haru would return in the age of Aquarius. And I'm going to explain that riddle, that prophecy for you. They say that this one that they're waiting for return, they call Jesus the Lamb of God. And I also want to qualify this by saying I have no desire or need to propagate that I am anyone's savior or anything like that, or Messiah or anything like that. I am who I am, and that's it. I do have a message to tell you about reincarnation, about the repetition of the soul. And that's the reason why we need to fix this problem. Because if we don't, that means that we're not trying to get the things better for our children. We're trying to get it better for ourselves. Because if we don't fix it now, we will come back here, like Freeman L would always say, come back screaming through the legs of a mother. You will come back here again and not even remember you've been here. Understand? So it's important that you open your mind to these concepts and ideas which are based in Africa. We understood this. For that other person that said it's not African in nature, it is. And so my life as Emmett Till was the lamb, the sacrifice that sparked the civil rights movement. His body was identified by a ring on his finger that said May 25th. I bought this off of Mfundisi's wrist on May 25th in 2014. My sister had a dream on May 25th that I would die. 7 days later, I crashed and lived on June 1st, which is my father's birthday, who dreams things before they happen, just like me and just like my sister, who is born on the day that the Black Wall Street massacre ended. Okay, and then 6 years later, I would total my motorcycle on May 25th in 2008. You understand? You know, so how do I unite the lion with the lamb? My life as Emmett Till was the lamb, the sacrificial lamb that sparked the civil rights movement. I had to become the lion, Haru. Like I said before, you have to raise your consciousness above the lower animalistic natures. You have to raise your consciousness and your actions up above your animalistic natures. That's why the human head on top of the lion. And I became the lion, Haru. You understand? Right? So that speaks to Leo. And he would be a Leo. I was a Leo. Okay, I was a Leo in 1941, a year snake, until 1955. But now I'm a Scorpio. And the oldest pharaohs are Scorpion goddesses. And the Scorpion goddess Selket on my back, she was guarding my tomb. The most famous goddess to guarding my shrine was Serket, the Scorpion goddess. And I am very much the Scorpion king. And the oldest pharaohs are known Scorpion kings. I want to speak to 5-star review that said he wanted to be a rapper, not Emmett Till. Hey, brother, listen, I'll be 44 this year. I've been writing rhymes since I was a teenager. I never wanted to be a rapper. I wanted to be an NFL football player. But instead, when I got to college, my grades weren't good enough. I had to go to junior college. But when my coach tried to yell at me because I did drop a pass, I dropped a pass 3rd and long. Right? See, y'all love to watch these sports and these athletes. I am not amazed. Some of these athletes do stuff that are amazing, but they don't amaze me because I've done stuff amazing on the field. You know, so this coach told me, Lou Saban, that he coached O.J. Simpson on the Buffalo Bills. He was an NFL, Super Bowl winner. He was training out. He was our coach, and he tried to yell at me or, on a bus ride home. And I defended myself. I didn't curse at him, but he sat me on a bench for the rest of the year. I had good grades, but I went through a depression. I got dismissed, and I left football. And I'm so thankful for that cracker that did that to me. He allowed me to, what was his name? Colin Kaepernick, way in 1998. And I'm so happy I ended up in the military. So no, I don't want to be a rapper, but I write rhymes, man. Yes, I write poetry, and I put on the music. Yes, and I love to do it. Do I have an album? Yeah, I don't sell it, though. It's online. You know what I'm saying? I created an album because I won't get into that story. But I created an album a year and 22 days after I realized I was Emmett Till, because I felt like all of the music that I was saying that probably needed to be said, because since I was this little boy that was murdered and all of my music had to do with Black struggle and unity, then perhaps maybe I should say this. And so I did that. And I bought a booth. I bought some wood and made a booth in here. And on the day that I was making the booth and I stood it up on his feet, my grandfather appeared to me. I was gonna make a mixtape, that was in 2015. But And that was years ago in 2015. But so no, I do write music and I'm pretty good at rap, hip hop, but being a rapper is not my goal in life, So those are all the things that I wanted to speak to in terms of the he also said supernatural gifts. Listen, I want you to understand that you are supernatural. We're all supernatural. Supernatural is a misnomer. You have supernatural ability. We all do. Do you understand? That's just the thing. Like I spoke about dreams and dreaming things with people and astral projection. Let me speak to you about sleep paralysis, because we need people out there. Let's make this a little learning lesson, because you got these distractors and out there. But hey, let me put you on to something. How about this? How about, see, Emmett was murdered in Money, Mississippi. See, I don't care about, there's a portion of me that would love for my music, the stuff that I write and to create, to be heard across all platforms. At this point, I don't really care about that. What I really want to do is finish this book, and to feel, when I finish this book, I will feel like, wow, I did some profound, you know what I'm saying? I came back here. I'm only telling you about, if I told you the other lives, you wouldn't believe even more. If I told you the other lives, you would not believe me even more. I'm telling you the oldest one and the most recent one. I'm not telling you all of them. If I told you all of them, you wouldn't even believe that. But it will all be in my book. You understand? You should all, and so people out there that say, you think you want to be a rapper, if you write rhymes, this is my message to you. Write your music from the heart. Write your music from the heart. Write things that make sense. Be careful with the words that you put together. Because look, when we read my book, it's a book about these past lives, but it's really a book about a man who made a change. That's what I did. I made a change from being a lower vibrational dude. That's what I did. So you could do that too. That's my biggest message. You know what I'm saying? But don't go out there looking for something. You know what I'm saying? Let me speak to sleep paralysis. People out there, they wake up and they can't move, and there'd be a dark shadow on them, and they'd be scared. Many people experience that. And when it started to happen to me, what I did is I spoke to many people about it, and I gathered up their experiences. And there are many different types of experiences that people have had with sleep paralysis. They see a dark shadow over them. They see, or they feel a pressure, and they can't speak. They can't speak. They can't move. That was my experience. My experience was I would wake up, my eyes were open, but my body couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I couldn't talk, but I could see everything, but my body couldn't move. And I'll be trying to create something out. I try to fight it to say something. And I want to tell you, sometimes I feel a little embarrassed about this, but I'm going to tell you the truth. The first time that I ever had sleep paralysis and I was able to say something, the words that came out of my mouth was, Jesus, Jesus. So name Jesus came out, like, because I gave my life to Christ in 22. I was a Christian. I was born a Muslim, got baptized at 11. I'll tell my life story, my whole life story. It's not just about these revelations. My whole life story lines up to what I'm telling you here. But as I started to understand years later, and I would have this again, I started to more knowledge and more research and more understanding. I started to understand that other people are having this. And I started to listen to other people's experiences. And instead of being afraid, one time this woman that I knew from Facebook, I didn't know her. This is years ago. They kicked me off Facebook in 2016. That will be in my book, why they kicked me off. I won't even talk about it now. But they kicked me off Facebook in 2016. And there was this woman prior to that who I knew on YouTube, on Facebook, who was in New York, who needed a place to stay. And I let her stay with me. And she slept in the same bed. She was a pretty woman. She was a dancer. And I ain't touch her. She was a space in between us. And that night I got sleep paralysis. That was the first time. Sometimes I wonder about that. That was the first time that I ever broke out of sleep paralysis without, like, I got broken. I was stuck. This woman was laying next to me. And in front of me was a ball with lightning shooting out from it. It was a lightning ball, and I couldn't move. And then all of a sudden, I know it was my left hand. I punched it with my left hand, and it darted off on the other side of the bed that she was on. So I always thought about that. It went to her side of the bed, and that was the first time I broke sleep paralysis. with you know, most people don't break it. You just can't move and you can't scream and blah, but I broke out of it. And then years later from that, another experience is where I started to study. I was studying meditation and things. So one day I lay down and I say, I want this to happen. So remember, we're talking about supernatural abilities and gifts. You know, and this is without a mushroom. This is without marijuana. This is without alcohol. This is with just regular thought, Jehudi, the power of thought, right? Right. This is the genie. This is the lap, the power of your mind. I said, I want to lay down and I want to have the vibration. So I lay down one day and my body starts to vibrate. And I'm vibrating. And anyone who's had sleep paralysis, you know that there's ringing in your ear, your body's vibrating, and you can't move really. And so the ringing goes away, and then I can't see myself, but then I wake back up and I say, wow. I say, yeah, I kind of just did that. And then I said, what are the chances that I could make it happen again? And so this is all in the same sitting. So I lay back down again, and I lay back, close my eyes. Now remember, I'm desiring to do it again because I just did it. And then my body starts to vibrate again. I'm vibrating, and I don't do anything. I don't move a muscle, and the vibrations go away. And I wake up and say, dang, it happened again. I did that. I definitely did that. I said, what are the chances I can do it again? I lay back down. And when I lay back down, my body started to vibrate again. But this time, what I did is I told myself, roll out of your body, because I had listened to and read about people saying that when you're in this state, that you can tell yourself to roll out of your body. And when I rolled out of my body, I floated, like I'm on the floor. I rolled out of my body looking at myself, and I floated to the window, shot up into the sky, came back and popped back into my body. And that was an introduction to astral projection, which we all have abilities to do things like that. We have abilities. I can tell you, there was a woman who read my mind one time. We have more abilities than you think. So to the guy, Haru El Ra. So if you ask me, there's good magic and bad magic. There's people who have abilities to do things out here who are going to use them for low vibrational things, and people who are going to use them for positive things. You know, so with that, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my brother, we have to kind of bring this to a close.
Okay.
I really hate to, and I'll summarize by saying this. What I opened with in telling you my own experience, I've had out-of-body experience. I went with Reverend Shopton to when the Hutus and Tutsis were at war, and I followed the death truck. There were over 1 million killed in the Hutu-Tutsi war. It was black against black. It was the most horrible thing I've seen. The death truck went around every morning picking up the dead bodies, and then they would take them to a mass grave and dump them in this grave and put lime over them, you know, to kind of submerge the stench. I'm just, you know, I've seen so much with my own eyes, and I've dedicated my life to documenting our history and being on the front line with some of our greatest leaders to do that documentation. So I just want to say that, yes, our ancestors are returning. Life is such a mysterious and strange journey, but we all have a journey, and I know we all have a story to tell. And we are fantastic beings. I mean, just fantastic, the kind of things that we can do. And it's for this particular time that some of us are telling our stories and awakening to let others know that right now we are becoming who we have always been. It's in our blood, it's in our DNA. We have so many lives in our DNA. The Creator has not made new blood. This is the same blood that your great, great, great ancestors, all the way back to your ancient Kemetic ancestors and your ancestors before our Kemetic experience. All those experiences are in us. And it's such a time as this that the time, the period, the season of our reawakening is here. You haven't seen anything yet. I mean, there are things that are going to come out of our children in terms of their abilities and their ability to see and our ability to communicate with one another, uh, mental telepathy. All of this is coming back. It's in us. And so I know a lot of people said, well, Minister Brown, you know, you brought us the great historians and so forth, but you're on a spaceship now. They, you're traveling with the space cadets, and I said, yes, I'm one of them. I'm a space cadet myself, and I've traveled and I've seen. So I just want to thank you for tuning in with us and staying with us and listening. So thank you, everybody. Look, subscribe. I meant to tell you, you got to subscribe to Tapvideo and hit the bell so we can keep you informed on what we're doing and who we're bringing forward. We are bringing forward a whole lot of different people with insights and trying to um, keep you up on and appraise and walking with the transition that we are making as a people. Peace, brothers and sisters, and thank you.